You... I did it! Egotastic FunTime. Hey gang, I'm JP and welcome back to Talking The Orville on Egotastic FunTime. Today we're gonna have a great time talking about what quite possibly may be the greatest episode of the entire Orville series thus far. We'll get to know the Catan family a bit better, explore the beautiful world of Solea, and see the crew give a heartfelt goodbye to a beloved fan favorite from the show that, while it was very emotional, isn't gonna make me cry at all, even though Alara was such a great... And here we go. In home, the crew places bets in what has become an over-the-top Friday night tradition, Alara and Isaac arm wrestling. But the unexpected occurs when Alara, who has superhuman strength in Earth's gravity, breaks her arm during the match. Dr. Finn discovers that by being away from her homeworld that has much higher gravity than the planetary average, that Alara has begun to lose her strength, and unless she goes back to Solea immediately, the atrophy to her bones and muscles could be irreversible. Alara says goodbye to the rest of the crew and is taken to her parents' home on Solea by Ed and Gordon, where she immediately loses her ability to walk on her own when exposed to the planet's high gravity. Ed, wearing a gravity suit as protection, lets Ildis and Dranala know that Alara is an exceptional officer who has saved many lives, including his own. But being that Soleans don't respect military service, Ildis doesn't appear to be very impressed by the captain's praises of his daughter.
It's no wonder she's so hard on herself all the time. God, I'd like to punch that guy in the face.
Ed and Gordon leave Alara in the care of her family, where she now has to be confined to a wheelchair until her strength returns. At dinner, we're introduced to Alara's sister Solana, and it becomes apparent that the Catans don't think much of Alara's service in the Union, and Ildis wants her to return to school. Later, Alara confronts her father about how he never gave her the encouragement that she needed when growing up, whereas her crewmates aboard the Orville did.
Do you know who said it to me instead? Captain Mercer, Commander Grayson, and everyone on the Orville. But not my own father.
In the hopes of pulling the family back together, the Catans take a trip to the beach house where they're told by Saris, the caretaker, that they have the entire island to themselves. Except for the wildlife, that is.
It's so beautiful! I haven't seen a wild evac in ages!
While watching the sunset and daydreaming about the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Alara notices that perhaps they're not the only people on the island after all. On the Orville, Kelly and Ed meet the new interim security chief, who'll be filling in for Alara while she's gone, and who seems to be really excited at the prospect of working aboard a Class A exploratory vessel.
Man, this is bitchin'. I like all the carpets.
Alara is still not strong enough to leave her chair yet, and the Catans receive an unlikely visit from Cambus and Florada, who just arrived on the island that morning and have worries that someone has been in their house. Alara's security training kicks in and she starts assessing the situation. They make a call to the caretaker Saris, who was supposed to have left the island already, but are unable to reach him. Meanwhile, John and Claire think they might have a way to cure Alara so she can come back to work permanently, and Bortus finds out exactly how much junk Lieutenant Tharl has in his trunk.
My species has a crazy high metabolism, so we evolved 2 esophaguses so we can just pound food. Pound it.
Solana and Alara go to Saris's cottage to investigate and learn that Saris might still be on the island because he didn't take his belongings with him. That night, the Catans have Cambus and Florada over for dinner, and Ildis is impressed to learn that their son Galdis is a college professor. Ildis takes Cambus into the kitchen to have him try some of his Travolve sauce, but Cambus has something else in mind and makes Ildis serve him the boiling hot sauce with his bare hand.
Oh, I would say that is indeed spicy enough.
The Catans are being held at gunpoint and are told that Cambus and Florada's son Galdis killed himself, and that they blame Ildis for their son's death, because he was the one who years ago publicly spoke against their son's claim that a vaccine was harmful to children, thus ruining his career and causing him to commit suicide. While using threats to try and get Ildis to retract his claim against their son's research, Ed and Gordon show up to let Alara know they may have a cure for her, but instead find themselves in the middle of a family feud. Alara finds enough of her strength has returned so she can fight back and protect her family, getting them to safety. She encourages her father to overcome his fear and go to help Captain Mercer, whose gravity suit is minutes away from failing. Discovering Ceres's fate, Ildis makes his way to the captain, who's already starting to get leg cramps, and gets him back to the shuttle with no time to spare, while Alara manages to catch Cambus by surprise. After the ordeal, Alara and her father reconnect, and Ildis breaks down after realizing he wasn't the type of father he should have been. And I had to change my shirt from all the tears streaming down my face. I mean, no I didn't. I'm not crying, you're crying. Shut up. With her family now safe, Alara returns to the Orville, where she learns that John and Claire have developed a treatment that will allow her to remain aboard the ship permanently. Later, Alara lets Ed know that she won't be returning to work and plans on going back to Solea to rebuild her relationship with her family. The crew gather in the shuttle bay to give Alara a heartwarming farewell as she leaves the Orville to start a new life on Solea. Alone in his ready room, Ed opens a parting gift from Alara that only he could appreciate. And it wasn't Joe Pickles and then Now, I know for a fact that some of you were worried that the Orville second season hasn't been living up to all the hype, everything we were hoping for. Well, worry no longer, because the latest episode, Home, has knocked it out of the park. It was pretty. Oh, so pretty. A roller coaster thrill ride of tense emotion and intrigue, says Gene Shalit about the movie Basic Instinct from 1992, but I think he'd be fine with me borrowing the quote. This is the episode that I predicted a very long time ago that we'd see Alara leaving the show. It's technically the second episode of the season, being that Primal Urges was the carryover from last season. And now Alara is officially gone, and I mean officially official. Fox just today announced that Halston Sage is officially not part of the Orville anymore. But the door is left open for possible appearances in the future. But what a wonderful send-off, you guys. A real classy move. Alara Katan is a fan favorite, and the fact that they gave her such a heartwarming send-off goes to show just how much the Orville takes the level of writing on the show seriously, and also how they appreciate the fans by giving us not only a great episode that explored Alara's character and her relationship with her family, but took the time to let us say goodbye as well. I love how the Orville is able to have such drastically different tonal shifts between episodes. In Home, we get to know more about Alara's struggles with her family and explore a whole new world, while also taking a really dark turn with the show, where it was being more akin to the works of Hitchcock than of Roddenberry. Cambus and Florada showing up at the beach house, feigning concern that someone might have broken into their house, was one thing, but when Cambus asks if they knew if anyone else was on the island, my ganglia stood up on the back of my neck.
Hi, I lost my little dog. Can you help me find him?
Be suspicious of an adult asking for help.
Stranger danger, that is the truth. Don't talk to strangers that talk to you.
The scene with the Travolve sauce made my jaw drop. The entire feel of the episode took a really dark turn in just a matter of seconds, and I wasn't ready for it, I have to admit. And what a clever way to weave the modern day social issue of anti-vaxxers into the storyline without having it stand out too much. Cambus and Florada's son, Galdus, was basically Jenny McCarthy in this situation, using bad science to claim that a vaccine was causing Torrens syndrome in kids. Ildis proved that Jenny McCarthy's claims were insane, thus singling out Jenny McCarthy, who lost all credibility as an MTV dating show host, and causing her to end her own life, probably really badly. And now Mr. and Mrs. McCarthy want some payback. How cool was it to see not one, but two Star Trek doctors on screen together in this one episode? Robert Picardo, who played the EMH doctor on Voyager, and John Billingsley, who of course played Dr. Phlox on Enterprise. These two wonderfully different and beloved actors coming together on the Orville further drives home the fact that the Orville has indeed picked up the torch that was carelessly thrown away so long ago and has taken on the mantle of trekking across the stars, once again going where no one has gone before, yet in a fresh but familiar way. At the end, when Ildis and Alara come together and he realizes how much he messed up their relationship while she was growing up, I was choking up.
And I'm so sorry that you got me for a father.
Seriously, the complete and utter remorse Ildis conveyed in the scene made my eyes geloja all down my cheeks and into my mouth a little bit. Another great thing about Home is just that. We get a first-hand look at Alara's home world of Solea. The planet has a much higher gravity and atmospheric pressures than the planetary average, which is why when a Solean is in Earth's normal gravity, they basically become Superman. I'm guessing the high level of gravity also explains why the planet has a ring around it and a bunch of moons nearby, but I still didn't expect the gravity to be so high that it crushed Ed's legs when parts of his suit began to fail. I read a couple comments from people on this episode where they said, hey, why didn't Ildis Catan get the bends when he was all of a sudden exposed to the lighter gravity aboard Gordon's shuttle? I'd like to answer that question right now, but I really can't because I really don't know enough about Solean physiology to have an accurate response to that. But on a side note, neither do you. Someone else claimed that Ed's gravity suit wouldn't account for the pressure of the planet and his heart would explode. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not very techie, but I do know that not a single person on planet Earth right now knows exactly how 25th century technology works. That's like Abraham Lincoln knowing how to use Twitter all of a sudden when we all know he prefers LinkedIn. Get it? Abraham LinkedIn? I write jokes. Basically what I'm saying is calm down, it's a TV show. Try to find joy in something before you die and are forgotten about forever because the universe doesn't care one way or another what any of us think.
Not even me, JP?
No, not even you, angry nerd troll.
Oh man.
Let's talk about a new guest on the show in this episode that has been connected to the Sethosphere for a very long time now. The interim security chief filling in for Alara while she's away on Solea, Lieutenant Tharl, played by Patrick Warburton, who you might recognize as Joe Swanson from Family Guy.
Just so you know, this is a really big deal. They even asked me to be a guest on Muy Importante.
While some of us thought he was hilarious, many of you were on the fence with Lieutenant Tharl, but that's to be expected. The crew of the Orville weren't fans of him either.
Hey, you know, Tharl, you can take a break if you want. Go eat in the mess hall.
I'm good. I like to work through lunch.
By the end of the episode, Alara was already back to work aboard the ship before deciding to leave forever. Tharl, no doubt, would have been back on his old ship by then, and I'm pretty sure Ed and Kelly wouldn't request for him to come back after making such a bad first impression. Did you notice the ship that dropped Tharl off when he transferred over? That's not an exploratory vessel like the Orville, you guys. That's a different class of ship, which is why Tharl kept going on and on about how cool the Orville was when he first met Ed and Kelly. At first, when I saw the ship, I was thinking it was a planetary Union science vessel, but this ship is too large to be a Union science class vessel. So I'm guessing it's a Union cruiser class ship, which is about 25% smaller than an exploratory class A ship like the Orville, but actually does have a short, stubby, lower third quantum engine on it, which I'm assuming is being obstructed from view by the Orville in this scene. In Home, we also get to see some alternate Union uniforms that are being worn by extras in the background. What's with the gray uniforms, you guys? Are these like for cadets or something? What do you guys think? We also find out that while the Union doesn't have a concept of money in the 25th century, that the crew still partake in gambling. We just don't know what form of currency they're using to place bets with.
Come on, everybody, place your bets. Use comp scanner code 7499 Alpha 6.
Hey, what's the score?
Home was directed by John Cassar and written by Cherry Cheva Pravatdamrong, who also wrote another Alara-centric episode from last season, Firestorm. Cherry is known as being one of the main writers on Family Guy, so it's nice to see her get to flex her dramatic writing muscles on the Orville again in this season. Something I don't usually talk about much in my reviews, but it would be ridiculous not to mention it with this episode, is the music on the Orville. Of course, and in true Seth MacFarlane fashion, the Orville takes its soundtrack very seriously, but Bruce Broughton and the rest of the music team really outdid themselves with this episode. This is the very first time I've ever seen any of you guys comment on the music from an episode, and it's obvious why. It stood out, it took us on a journey, it paired well with the emotions we were feeling when seeing Solea for the first time, or taking a trip to the beach house with the Catans, or when we all said goodbye to Alara along with the rest of the crew. We'll no doubt have to wait a long while to get our hands on the Season 2 soundtrack, but FYI, the Orville Season 1 2-disc soundtrack was just recently released, and I have the link ready to click on in the description below if you're interested. If you've been watching my show for a while, you were already prepared for Alara going bye-bye. I was positive she'd be leaving for good in this episode, but I was still very surprised at just how well done the goodbye was. It was simply perfect. We understood Alara better than ever before. We understood why she left her planet in the first place and why she decided to go back home even though Claire and John came up with a cure for her. As a character, she finally found what she was looking for. Her journey was complete. There's nothing more for us to learn about her. Many of us were afraid that this was going to be a Tasha Yar situation where she gets killed off by some scary tar monster and the only way we'll ever see her again is if there's a time travel episode that ultimately makes it so that Alara has a secret daughter that we didn't know about who has some sort of grudge against the Union. But they didn't do that at all! This turned out to be more of a Dr. Crusher situation. She's gone, but she's not lost. Ed made it clear that there's always a place for her on the Orville. So while I doubt she ever comes back to the show permanently because Jessica Zora is going to totally rock it this season, I have no reason to think that we've seen the last of Alara Katan. The Orville is back, baby, and home proves that we're going to be in for an amazing, thoughtful, and exciting adventure this season. We'll be treated to a futuristic 25th century universe that we don't quite understand, but feel like we could be a part of because the crew of the Orville would be there to give us the encouragement that we need, letting us know that we can do it. We got this. Though Gordon really did make me realize that Ildis Katan was probably right about us.
Well, yes, the humans, the hillbillies of the galaxy.
God, I'm trash. My family is trash.
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about today, and I talked about it. How about you? Do you think we'll ever see Alara open a jar of pickles for Captain Mercer again? What did you think of Planet Saleya and their crazy high gravity? Are you ready to meet Tala, like really soon? What's your food of choice when taking the tube to Tummy Town? You can let me know what you think by joining the conversation below. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and supporting my stupid show. It really does mean the world to me. I'll see you very soon, and as always, I hope all of your times are egotastic fun times. Love you, bye-bye!
Egotastic fun time, we're gonna have a great time. Egotastic fun time, give me all your money. Give him all your money. You will find me funny. Just give me money. I love money. Give me all your 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 money.